Hi guys, how are you doing? This is Sebastian from TechCentury and welcome to a brand new initial review. Today we're checking out the unique Nubia Z50 Ultra. So kicking off this video, there's a huge shout out going out to Trading Shenzhen because this is an import device that isn't available in most countries, and therefore check out the links in the description to check it out. First off, we see the device itself, which is quite heavy, but we'll put it to the side to check out the other box content first. So here we have a SIM ejector tool, and next up, this seems like a case, but a hard case, which is fairly unique because usually we have soft silicon cases in smartphones, and there we have a hard case. But you can already see, first off, the huge camera cutout, but then also on the sides there isn't really much protection for the device, which is fairly unique and maybe not the best approach, but we'll put that to the side for now. Moving on, we'll then get the documentation with a little quick start guide, and that's basically it. Diving deeper inside of the box, we of course also get a charging cable, and this time in a red finish, kind of with a rubber fabric to it. Feels nice, USB-C to USB-C, and quite good quality and also length. So it's nice to see that this is included inside of the box as well. We'll also see that there are some other red accents on this device as well. Next up, we then also have a charger inside of the box, which of course isn't really that common anymore these days. And this is actually an 80-watt charger, which is very nice to see. Of course, if you purchase this device from Trading Shenzhen, you'll also get an adapter for your country, so no matter where you're located, that you'll be able to charge the device. And we have a 5000 mAh battery on the smartphone itself. Now, the prices on this device range from around 700 to 900 euros currently. Of course, the US dollar prices are fairly similar as well. But now let's actually dive into the packaging and let's take a closer look at the device. And what should I say? The first impressions are really good. It has a really high premium feel to it, and I absolutely love the silver color. And also the huge camera cutout looks fairly interesting, I would say. And of course, we also have metal rails all around, and then this huge display, which we'll talk more about later. And there we see how this case looks. And of course, the big advantage with clear cases is that we see all of the design of this device. This is fairly unique, so the case certainly isn't hiding it. On the back, we also have glass. This time it's frosted glass, which is great because it doesn't show fingerprints. And yeah, then we see the huge camera module also with the branding. But moving on, let's actually take a closer look around the device. So here on the side, we see that we have a red accent power button, which looks quite nice, I have to say. And then we also have this special action button for the camera at the top, which is really nice to see as well. And this launches the camera, which we'll see later. And of course, we also have the volume up and down, as well as the power switch there in red. And I think this red power switch looks quite nice. On the top, we have an IR blaster, as well as another speaker and also a microphone. And then on the bottom, another speaker, the USB-C port, which is 3.0 standard, which is nice to see. And then on the other side, there's basically nothing. Then we have the SIM ejector tool right here, as well as the SIM slot. And while there is a seal, there is no official IP rating, so you definitely have to be aware of that. We have a dual SIM functionality also with 5G, which is of course the biggest advantage or the biggest or most important aspect. But still, this is quite nice to see that we also have this rubber seal despite there not being an IP rating. Unfortunately, we can't expand the storage, so whatever storage you're getting this device with, you're basically stuck with. But now let's actually insert the SIM tray and talk a little bit more about the USB port. As mentioned below, this is actually a USB 3.0 port, but also allows, for example, to connect external monitors, which is quite nice to see. Then let's actually talk about the dimensions, and this is a huge smartphone, don't get me wrong, especially with the weight of 228 grams. This is quite a heavy device, which also of course then relates to the high quality materials and just the pure size of this device. So there's a huge display with a 6.8-inch diagonal. So of course you also have to hold it with your index finger because it's just a quite heavy and top-heavy device due to the huge camera module. But this actually kind of just feeds into the overall premium feel of the device. And if you're a fan of huge devices, then you should definitely check out the Z50 Ultra. But now let's see if it actually has any juice on it. And there you can already see the start screen. We have a huge OLED screen, which is of course nice to see, with 120 Hz refresh rate. So here we see the start screen of MyOS. It's a 6.8 AMOLED display with 400 ppi and 120 Hz. So this is great to see, and a top-notch display with I think a top brightness of around 1500 nits, which you certainly can complain about. MyOS is the operating system, and the languages available are Chinese as well as English UK or English US. If you want to have additional languages, you also have to install an additional app for that, but that's also possible so that you get, for example, German or other languages which aren't officially supported. Now, one thing that's really unique about this device is that you don't see a front camera. There's no punch hole, there's no notch, but there is a front camera which is hidden behind the AMOLED display. Alright, so after a quick setup, we can now check out the home screen of the Z50 Ultra. And of course there wasn't a lot of customizability yet, but it's just about to show you how small the bezels are all around. So this is a huge deal, and I think that's great what Nubia did right there. We have the same size of bezel on the top as well as also on the chin. So this is great to see as well. And the viewing angles, of course, due to the AMOLED display, are also fantastic. And the 120 Hz display performs well. Of course, it was immediately activated, and the peak brightness again with 1500 nits is also quite excellent, and not really anything to complain about. And of course, you barely see the camera. I mean, it's a front-facing camera on the display, but that's quite nice. Now, of course, the images captured with this camera are rather soft, but this is a trade-off for the hidden camera. And for me personally, I think that's absolutely fine. I barely use the camera, maybe just for a video call from time to time, so that's fine. But if I, of course, take a lot of selfies, then maybe you might be looking for a different phone. We also have a fingerprint reader here in the display, which is fairly high on the front of the phone. Now, I'm personally a huge fan of that. I don't like it if it's too low, but of course, this also varies due to personal differences, or personal preference, I should rather say. Now, this device also supports 2D face unlock with the front-facing camera. I personally wouldn't recommend it due to security reasons though. On the rear we have a huge camera module with 3 main sensors, and we'll start off with the main sensor, which is fairly unique. This is a 64 megapixel Sony IMX787 sensor, which we haven't really seen on that many other smartphones before, with an aperture of f1.6. Now, of course, 64 megapixels is quite a high pixel count, but if it really outperforms other 50 megapixel cameras which we've seen on other flagships, that's up to debate, and you'll see some of these sample pictures right there. The next sensor is fairly common. It's a 50 megapixel Samsung JN1, and this is a wide-angle sensor which we've seen on many smartphones in the past 2 to 3 years, with an aperture of f2.2. And the field of view is 116 degrees and also capable of macro photos as well, with a distance of up to around 2 centimeters. Last but not least, we of course also have a telephoto sensor here on this camera, and in this case this is an OmniVision 64 megapixel 64B sensor with an f3.3 aperture. And of course this is quite a good telephoto sensor, also with 3.3 optical zoom. Everything that's further away is then digital zoom. But of course, cameras are not only about the hardware, but also about the software. And here, Nubia supports 8K video recording as well as 4K video recording on the main sensor with optical image stabilization. We also have optical image stabilization on the telephoto sensor, but only digital stabilization on the ultra wide angle sensor. But this is fairly common as well. Now, of course, on top of that, we also have a night mode, which you can see in action right there, and looks quite promising also with moon images, which we can zoom in. Now, of course, we also have to keep in mind that there might be some tempering around, as with on Samsung device, for example, but I think these night shots also look quite good, especially with the main sensor. And of course, RAW files are also supported if you want to edit your images further. But now let's actually talk about the software. And this is quite interesting, especially for an import device. This is Android 13 with MyOS powered by Nubia. and this is their operating system and their skin on top of Android. And again, it supports English as well as Chinese, English for UK as well as the US. And if you purchase this device from Trading Shenzhen, the Play Store is pre-installed. This isn't the case on this device because this was with another tester first who then reset the device and then the Play Store is gone. But it's quite easy to then transfer the Play Store. You just need to have another device with the Play Store on it, and then you can transfer the Play Store with Bluetooth to this device, and then you can install all the apps that you want. Again, languages are quite limited to English and Chinese, but you can also install another app so that you then get more than like 150 languages. So if English or Chinese isn't your favorite, there's still a solution. But now let's talk more about the hardware. And of course, we have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in this device, octa-core processor by Qualcomm with 3.2 GHz, Adreno 740 GPU, the choice between 8, 12 or 16 GB of RAM, as well as also between 256, 512 or 1 TB of storage, which is quite insane. UFS 4.0, so really fast speeds as well. And the latest that you can basically get, and we get an Antutu score of 1.298 million, which is quite insane, and you should be able to play any game on this device also with 120 Hz enabled, which is quite nice. And so this really wraps up my first impressions of this device. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comments below, and I really hope to see you in the next video. Please make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.